Good morning. I'm Wilhelm Murg. This is March 28th, Thursday morning. And this morning, rather than talk about pot, I know that a lot of people do these videos and they talk about pot every time and they run out of things to talk about with pot. I want to talk about something a little more interesting. My old friend Lee Roy Chapman, our old friend Lee Roy Chapman, we shared a lot of friends. He is a good friend at this house. And Leroy, if you didn't know who he was a journalist. He wrote for This Land here in Tulsa. He was tied in with the Historic Society, Tulsa Historic Society. I don't know if he was actually associated or if he just did a lot of research there, but he hung out there a lot. He was associated somewhat with the used bookstore, the Oak Tree Books, I believe it's called. I'm sorry, I never went there very much. And he basically started the stir about the Brady District that was named after Tate Brady. Tate Brady was a Klansman. Tulsa had one of the worst race riots in the 20s. And Tate Brady, his garage was the headquarters for the KKK. It later became the classic Kane's Ballroom, where Bob Wills, invented contemporary country music, where the Sex Pistols did their penultimate show, period, before they went to San Francisco and broke up. Leroy did a lot of research on this, and dug up all this KKK stuff. Tate Brady had a house up on North Denver where they had cotillions, actual Southern dressed up like Confederate soldiers and Scarlett O'Hara and all that. And this is Oklahoma. We were not a part of the Civil War. We had one crazy Cherokee that was trying to get us involved, and other than that, and I'm Cherokee, so I can say crazy Cherokee, but other than that, there was, we were not really that involved in the Civil War one way or the other. So, that kind of crap was going on. And Leroy dug all this up, while at the same time we have the Brady District, which is north of downtown Tulsa, across the railroad tracks. And the Brady District was named for Tate. And this is while, in the South, we're talking about all these Confederate statues and stuff. Well, this is Oklahoma. We don't have Confederate statues, but we got Tate Brady. So, Leroy caused a lot of stink. There were a lot of meetings, a lot of hard feelings. At the end, they changed it to the M.E. Brady District, named for the photographer, the great Civil War photographer, who, once again, never came to Tulsa, had no association with Oklahoma. And, it was kind of a wussy way of getting out of it. Leroy died. I heard he killed himself and he had depression problems, he had drug problems. Leroy, I just know, died. And I also know that before that, he was telling people, if you hear I committed suicide, don't believe it. Well, I kind of believe it, but at the same time, in the back of my head, there's that 1% of me that wonders sometimes. It's hard not to have that 1% to wonder about. Anyway, not a conspiracy theorist, but it bugs me. One joke was that we should name it after the Brady Bunch, which actually was not a terribly insane idea, believe it or not. Lee Woodward was a famous newscaster here in Tulsa. He came up here from Texas in the early 1960s to replace Robert Reed, who played Mike Brady, i.e. Mr. Brady of the Brady Bunch. Robert Reed started getting jobs to appear in movies, so he flew out to California and they needed another talent, weatherman. This is before they had, meteorologists, back when it was just whoever. Getting the call. And so, lost my place there. Shouldn't be doing these high. Anyway, so yeah, I felt that the joke was actually apt. It would have made more sense if we named it after Mike Brady, because Robert Reed, i.e. Mike Brady, was actually in the Brady District at some point. I'm sure Robert Reed crossed the tracks at some point to go to a show. So anyway, Leroy killed himself, died, deceased, was no longer Leroy. We were all extremely sad. I'm getting another call. That's the problem with modern technology. And I'm, so in the meantime, we've changed the name of the street. Now the what was Brady Street, and then became the M.E. Brady Street, and then at some point it became Reconciliation Way, which is a mouthful. And Cincinnati, what used to be Cincinnati a long time ago, was changed to MLK, or Martin Luther King Boulevard, through the north half. I think north through downtown, if I'm correct. It turns back into Cincinnati at some point south of downtown. But anyway, so we've changed those two streets. Peter Mayo, I'm very happy to say, my name's mixed up, is changing the name of the Brady Theater to the Tulsa Theater, which is the old name. They have this beautiful, beautiful Art Deco sign that they're having restored. It's been in storage for decades. And so basically, Lee Roy won. It's no longer named after Tate Brady. It's named after M.E. Brady. It's no longer the Brady Theater. It's now the Tulsa Theater. It's no longer Brady Street. It's now Reconciliation Way. And then we have the MLK Boulevard for good measure. So my question is, why don't we have something about Lee Roy? I mean, Lee Roy was a bizarre person. I didn't know him that well, but people told me he would drive you crazy if you allowed him. I had like 3 or 4 really long, intense, hours-long conversations with the man, and I was impressed with him. But I never thought it would get to this point where Lee Roy studying all this stuff would actually turn into everything being renamed. We need a plaque. We need something there. Lee Roy deserves to be remembered. And I should add that the Chapman family is a philanthropist family, extremely generous here in Tulsa. Anyone who went to TU knows Chapman Hall and that sort of thing. Lee Roy was not a member of that family, but it wouldn't be unheard of to name something after Chapman around here, to use that name somewhere in here. And I like to think if anyone did that in the Brady District, Lee Roy would have stowed away somewhere in that little dedication. His ghost is there somewhere. So anyway, that's my say. Lee Roy, I don't believe in an afterlife, but if there is one, I'm trying, dude. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I had to get that off my chest. Like the video if you're watching this on YouTube. Subscribe and like, and that's how we can actually make more of these, as if people subscribe and like to the YouTube channel, not Facebook. So do whatever you can. Act like you actually enjoyed this video, and I'll be back.